Saan ka sumusulat ngayon?
Diyan sa Signal.
Paano?
Ano na?
Program writer? Parang gano'n?
Sa site. Coming from a family of ball players, this man chose to take a career path of sharing and developing what he learned from the game. True enough, he became one of Philippine basketball's legendary coaches. He won 8 PBA championships but became more endeared to Filipino basketball fans when he steered the Philippines back to the world stage after 40 years, capped by Gilas Pilipinas' second place finish in the FIBA Asia Championship. A five-time PBA champion coach, a five-time PBA Coach of the Year awardee, and one of the few coaches to win multiple championships in 3 different teams. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome the man who best personified puso, Vincent Chot Reyes. Hi, Coach. Kumusta?
Kumusta, Ray? Good evening sa lahat ng nandito ngayon nakikinig.
Okay. Coach, tanungin ko lang, nakikita kita na busy ka pa rin na nag-go-home workout, but how did you spend your time during the quarantine period?
Very productively, I think, because before naman nangyari itong pandemic, I was essentially working from home already. So it was not a big adjustment for me. Obviously, the big difference lang is hindi ako nakakapunta masyado sa mga gusto kong mga pinupuntahan. Pero nakakapag-golf na rin ako, nakakapunta din ako sa golf course. So it's all good. The biggest adjustment lang, yung aking practice of giving a lot of my talks, team building and workshops and engagements, puro ganito. It's all virtual. So it's okay naman.
All right. Okay. Coach, it's obvious you came from a family of ballers. No? I've seen your brothers, June and Billy, played college ball. And you played college ball too. And probably you were the finest ball player in the family, until June became a hero in Ateneo, of course. No? Can you share those beginnings na naglalaro kayo together as brothers sa mga liga?
Oh, well, sa mga liga-liga, especially the mga inter-village tournaments, it was very hard to beat the Reyes brothers kasi 5 gwardiya kami, para kaming security agency, 5 gwardiya kami. Pero hindi mo matatawid yung bola sa half court sa amin kasi full court press kami all the way.
Okay.
So we'd play against teams with much better, superior height and talent and all that. Pero mahirap kami talunin. That's one. And secondly, di namin kailangan mag-usap. Nagkakaamuyan na kami. We know because we're brothers. We have a very good sense of where each other is. So team na team kami talaga. So alam mo naman sa ganyan, mga ganyong larong labas, yung team na team maglaro, lamang na lamang yun, di ba?
Of course. Nakakalaro niyo rin doon sina Coach Tim sa interview?
Yes. Sila Coach Tim Cone, we had a lot of famous battles with him.
Okay. Coach, as good of a ball player you were, when did you realize that coaching and not playing is the career path you should take?
It was a very tough realization because going into my senior year sa Ateneo, sa my 4th year college, I got injured. Isa ngayon ang tawag doon siguro parang MCL.
Okay.
But I still made the Mythical 5, the UAP Mythical 5 then. Ang kasama ko, mga hindi mo masyadong kilala sa Mythical 5, ano lang naman, Pido Harencio, Glenn Capasio, Alan Caidic at Jericho Dinera. Ako lang hindi naglaro sa PBA dun sa Mythical 5 na yon. So we thought, may article pa nga, I don't know if that was Tito Talaw, na shoe in, UAP Mythical 5, shoe in for the national youth team. So nag-try out kami, akala namin sure kami sa national team. Walang natanggap yata sa amin nun. So that was ang NCAA counterparts naman namin, sila Jerry Gonzalez, sila ano na yun. So I thought that was the sign that I had to do something different because when I graduated from college, yung offer ko to play in the PBL at saka yung offer ko to work, yung sweldo pareho lang.
Okay.
May anak na ako noon, so I thought it was I had to be thinking more long term. So I chose the corporate path.
Yung corporate na yan, Coach, saan yun? What company yun?
I was a working student. Second year college, I was already working with the Ministry of Transportation and Communication. But right upon graduation, wala akong pahinga, wala akong bakasyon. I was hired right away by Pure Foods Corporation. To be in their corporate affairs department. And then that's why I was the one na nagpasok sa Pure Foods sa PABL. And then after a few years in the PABL in 1988, pinasok, I was the one who put the team together para ipasok sa PBA. Kasi nag-disband na yung the Eco team noon, the Tanduay franchise, di ba? So it was a big opportunity for us to have the first 4 or 5 picks in the draft and then the core of the Tanduay team.
That was that was probably the best concession.
Grabe. Kaya nga sinabi ko nun sa aming president, si Mr. Rene Buhayo, sabi ko, boss, we'll never get this opportunity again, ever. Sabi ko, so if you really want, we did think we were 100% ready, pero sabi ko, hindi na darating ulit itong opportunity na to. So we jumped in, but then we had a very full coaching staff noon. We had Baby Dalupan, so I wasn't coaching, I was on the management side. Until the coaching bug hit me kasi nung end 89, naghanap ng assistant coach si Tim Cone. So, after kami nagsasalpukan dun sa mga laban sa inter-village ng mga tournament, tinawagan niya ako. Sabi niya, tulungan mo nga ako mag-assistant sa Alaska.
Okay.
So, I wanted to go back to coaching then. Puno nga with Pure Foods. Baby Dalupan as the head coach, assistant si Eli Capasio, and Chris Kalilan, kompleto sila. There was no room for me. So I had to leave first to work as Tim Cone's assistant for 3 years until nag-open up yung Pure Foods job. Kinuha nila ulit ako. Kaya bumalik ako sa Pure Foods noong 1993.
Okay. Balikan ko yung coach, no, when you have yung full-time head coaching job mo with Ateneo, no, you led Ateneo high school team to a championship, right? Ilan titles ka ba ron na napanalunan mo?
Sa UAP, isa lang. But before that, I coached the Paya Aspirants team din. So I coached Paya Aspirants for, I think, 2 years. We won a championship on my second year. And then UAP na kagad. Yung third year, nag-champion kami doon. With Danny Francisco, with all of these other players.
Yeah. All right. Speaking about Danny Francisco, coach, do you believe he's the best player the PBA never had?
Oh yeah, he is the best player that never made it to the PBA by far. I mean, he would have been really special.
Coach, from high school coaching, you move up to coach the Blue Eagles in the UAAP, no? At that time, na hindi pa gaano ka-massive yung recruitment, no? Unlike today, when you have a deluge of foreign players, no? How challenging was it putting up a competitive team back then?
Very challenging. Malas ang mga stints ko sa Ateneo because nung naglalaro ako, kami yung time na talagang we had to beg to even have rubber shoes and sweatsuits. Walang nanonood ng team, ng games. And then after that, nagkaroon ng resurgence na yung kapatid ko, si June, nag-champion sila, nag-back-to-back, di ba? And then, nung bumagsak, cyclical naman yun Nung on the down years, doon naman ako naging coach ulit ng Ateneo, na tinawagan ng Ateneo to be their head coach in 1990 to 92. So, again, it was very difficult because, we had very little funds. And everybody knows how difficult it is na makapasok sa Ateneo. There are stringent academic requirements, diba? So it was really, we couldn't compete. We had at one time nagpa-practice sa amin, ang tagal na sa amin nagpa-practice si Alan, si Bennett Palad, if I remember right. We had some very good players there. Hindi lang talaga mabuo-buo. So nung panahon ko, nung naglalaro ako. So nung nagko-coach naman ako, we really had problems in recruiting. We couldn't compete with specifically LaSalle and FEU. And UST, grabe rin ang galing ng recruitment program nila.
No.
So, ano lang yun? We just had to do with the players essentially from high school and from homegrown players. Isa sa mga players ko pa nga doon, football player, varsity football namin, si Vince Santos.
Okay.
And then, that's where also I recruited Vince Season.
Right.
So I think my last year na as a head coach. So it was very difficult. But I thought those were the years where I really grew and learned to coach. Kasi yung 3 years na yon, 1990 to 92, I was coaching 3 teams. Head coach ako ng Ateneo, seniors.
Okay.
Head coach ako ng Burger Machine sa PABL.
Right.
And then assistant coach ako ni Tim Cone sa Alaska. So yun talagang master's degree ko in coaching, those 3 years. That's where I really cut my coaching teeth, kumbaga.
Okay. Wala pang boss MVP noon sa Ateneo at that time.
Wala pa. Way before.
All right. Next challenge for you was the PBL, no? Ako, nare-recall ko talaga is yung ikaw, nagko-coach ka nga sa Burger Machine, no? Gusto ko malaman, ano ba yung team na kinoach mo ron, coach?
I had quite a few UST players. Kasi naglalaro sa akin yung kapatid ko si Billy, and then mga kakampi niya sa UST, si Udoy Belmonte, Ray Evangelista, Edmond Reyes. Okay, we had that lineup. If I'm not mistaken, we also had Kenneth Duremdes for a while in Burger Machine, and then some other less well-known players na. But again, those were fun times. Wilmer Ong, I think, was my big man. Big man ko nun.
Si Coach Perry ba assistant mo?
Hindi ko siya hindi kami nag-abot sa Burger.
Okay. Then you moved to the PBA, no? Yun nga, naging assistant ka ni Coach Tim, no? And looking back 30 years ago, how did you feel na parang halos sabay yung group ninyo as coaches?
Ni Tim?
Oo.
Hindi, mas matanda sa akin yun,
Okay,
yeah, almost really sabay na sabay because as he was starting out nga, kaya nga niya ako recruit. He wanted to have an assistant na he felt he could really work with, that he was very comfortable with.
Okay.
And so because we knew each other from our previous encounters playing against each other, so tamang-tama, I think that was his first official year as a head coach. Ako yung assistant niya. So we basically broke into the PBA together. Obviously, he's won a lot more championships than I have, but it's a great privilege for me to basically grow up in the PBA with him. We hold very similar values, in attitude and how the game should be played. Obviously, our systems, our techniques, strategies might be different, but our approach to the game is very similar. And up to now, we remain very close. We maintain a very close bond.
Right. Okay. Coach, you started young as head coach of Pure Foods, and probably the stars of that team, Alvin Patrimonio and Jericho Diniera, were probably at the same age or just a little bit younger than you. No, but how challenging for a neophyte coach to get these stars on board and got them working on the same page?
I think, first of all, when I went in sa Pure Foods, the first thing I did was I took Alvin out for lunch, for dinner with Jerry, kape kami ni Glenn. I started off by just building those relationships right away with those players. And I think that was very, very important. But equally as important were the relationships that I had with the veterans, because they were the spiritual leaders. Specifically Frankie Lim and Abby King. So they were really because of the relationships I had with the veterans, they always had my back. And so because of that, talagang nabuo yung team. And ganun naman ang dynamics, di ba, ng team when the young ones see that the veterans are have good relationships with the head coach, then they sasakay din sila, di ba? But it was also a blessing for me as a coach that my best players were also my hardest workers. I never had a problem with Alvin and Jerry in terms of attitude, discipline. They're never late, never nag-absent. Wala kang magiging problema sa dalawang yon. With Glenn Capasio, the leaders of the team in any situation, whether that's sports or in the corporate world or in business, when your best players are also your hardest workers, that's always a recipe for success.
Right.
And that's why I was very fortunate in Pure Foods to have that situation.
Okay. Coach, how sweet it is winning a PBA title in your rookie season and entering the championship round twice that year. Why was your early PBA coaching journey so successful?
Again, I go back to the relationship that I have with my players. Kasi we started off very rocky. I was trying to figure out, I was trying to create my own identity as a coach personally, and even on the court, what kind of system we would really run. But the players were very patient with it. And I knew we had a lot of team meetings. I remember those days. Pero in the end, the poise of the veterans together with the exuberance and the talent, it was really very hard to find talent that could match up with the talent that I had with that inside out combination, di ba? Yung Alvin, Jerry, Kabahug, and then may Glenn Capasio na defender, and then we had those the stabilizing presence at point guard with Frankie, and then Abe King off the bench, as the enforcer, di ba? And then that was also the year that we got Dindo. Solid eh. Ganda ng we put together a really good team, and I thought we did a great job in the draft by drafting role players to supplement that core. Si Benny Cheng, Dwight Lago, Freddy Abuda, di ba? These are the unsung heroes, pero ang laking bagay ng mga ganung pyesa to put a great team together. So grabe yung anong yun, if you take a look at yung samahan and I guess the understanding of playing the roles in that team, aside of course, needless to say, grabe yung talent. Hindi ka naman aabot sa championship kung wala kang talent. Obviously there's talent, but
yeah,
I thought
if I'm not mistaken, that was probably the first time that Pure Foods was able to beat San Miguel in a championship series. Lagi silang suki dun eh.
Oo, kaya nga. So, naano namin. And I think being a neophyte coach worked to our favor kasi nahihirapan din ako, mahirap kami basahin eh. Hindi kami mabasa rin, I guess, ni Norman at ni Coach Ron nun eh, di ba? Kasi, sino ba naman itong mga to? Kami nga, hindi namin alam gagawin namin. Sila pa, paano lang kami masa-scout, di ba? So I think that worked to our favor. And perhaps the exuberance of youth, yung wala kang takot. Kasi, we go in, we're the new kids on the block. We were supposed to get beaten by the great coaching tandem of Norman, Jong, and Ron Jacobs as the consultant, di ba? So parang nothing to lose kami, di ba? So we came in, we were not afraid to experiment, to put a lot of different combinations on the floor, to try a lot of different stuff. So I thought it was just parang naging perfect storm, a good confluence of factors that fortunately led to a championship in that first tournament.
Right. Okay. Coach, you coached the captain, Alvin Patrimonio, and in your first 2 seasons as head coach of the old Pure Foods franchise, he became the MVP. Was there any doubt that he was the best forward you've ever coached?
No, that's a special player yun. Once in a lifetime, generational player yun si Alvin. The combination ng skills, lakas ng katawan, and smarts, nandun na ako. Pero the thing that is very underrated kay Alvin really is his attitude. for a person of his stature, his capability, wala akong naging problema at all kay Alvin in the 4 years na magkasama kami sa Pure Foods. And I think that was very, very important. So we knew sa Pure Foods, basta pasok kami, practice, game, nandyan si Alvin, that you could count on. Andun sila palagi, Jerry, Alvin, maski ano mangyari, nandun silang dalawa. And, I don't make any bones about it, that they really built, to a large extent, Jerry and Alvin really made me as a coach. I don't think if I had come in and had different players around me, maybe I wouldn't have been that successful.
Okay. Okay. 2 championships with Pure Foods in just 2 seasons, but in 1995, it seems the team hit rock bottom. And for the first time in 8 seasons, the Hot Dogs failed to advance to the championship round of the All Filipino. Now, how big of a disappointment was it for you, Coach?
Syempre, it was yun ang mahirap if you taste early success, di ba? Parang hindi ka dapat natatalo. It was something that was very difficult for me to accept and to swallow, and I don't think I handled it very well either. But it forced us to make some moves to retool. And in 96 we went back to the finals, although we lost to Alaska, di ba? But at least we were able to pick ourselves up. But it was a big lesson for me. And I think to a large extent, that's the reason why Pure Foods at the end of 1996 decided not to renew my contract. So maybe they saw that, siguro nakita nila my flaws and my weakness as a coach. So they decided to hire a different coach after my contract expired in the end of 96.
Okay. Okay, after Pure Foods, Coach, you moved to Santa Lucia, no? And for a while, we thought we're envisioning a successful path for you with the Realtors, because just like Pure Foods, the team probably had one of the most talented frontline combo in Jun Limpot and Dennis Espino. Yeah. Can you share why you didn't enjoy a similar success like you had with Pure Foods when you had Patrimonio and Cudinera before?
On the contrary, in my first tournament sa Santa Lucia, 3rd place kaagad kami, di ba? That was the first trophy, best record in Santa Lucia history yun eh.
Okay.
So we thought we were on our way to building something special. Kaya lang, right after that first tournament, they fired me, di ba? If you remember, I got fired right there. And again, that's one of those painful but necessary lessons that I had to learn. That it's really not about you. It doesn't matter how good you are sa X's and O's technically, but if your players stop playing for you, I was such a terrible coach to play under that hindi ako matiis na nila Jerry Esplana, nila all of my players then. So that left the management with no recourse but to replace me. Okay. And I accept that. That's my fault. That's my kagagawa ko talaga yon. But like I said, I think that was something that I needed. It was a painful lesson for me to learn. Pero ano talaga yun eh. Ganun talaga, I guess, ang Diyos eh, di ba? Because all these years, it's always been my dream. I've always had these invitations to go and observe basketball practices of NBA teams or the great American coaches in college, but I couldn't do it because it was always season. But then that year, 97, because I got fired, then I finally had that opportunity to get invited to watch a Phil Jackson practice in his first year with the Lakers. Nakapunta ako kay, the best coaches, Bobby Knight, Mike Krzyzewski, Dean Smith, napuntahan ko lahat because finally I had that time and that opportunity. And that really figured very critically into my development as a better coach and I guess a better leader. So, unfortunately I had to experience that painful incident, but that's the way it is, di ba? Coaches, we are hired to be fired. So, ganun talaga ang buhay, coach.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Coach, you moved to the Metropolitan Basketball Association.
Yep.
And let's admit it, it was a big threat to the PBA during that time, no? What was your primary role there? And as successful as it was in the early goings, it also had a short stint. And what were the lessons we've learned in running a regional basketball league similar to the NBA?
Well, they got me to be the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, and I basically had a hand in choosing 7 or 8 of the coaches, and we handpicked the PBA players who were young enough to be still part of the future of the NBA. So it was very successful, but we came in with a 5-year plan, and I specifically remember saying we're not even going to think about competing with the PBA until after 5 years. We're just too young. Kaya lang, the first year became so successful
Oo, laki
that
agad.
that the management thought that it was that it was time to go head to head with the PBA. So suddenly the team started recruiting all these high-priced players, and so it became a head-on competition with the PBA. And in that situation, wala kang panalo. I mean, I was the first to admit, and I was trying to stop it, pero hindi na mapigilan. And yun na nga, before we know it, in the first year, it was very successful. We were managing the expenses of the teams. In the second year, the roof gave out, and the expenses skyrocketed, and little by little that led to the downfall, because if the teams are not profitable, if the teams are not sustainable, then the league is not sustainable. So that was the sayang talaga, because I thought the NBA was a really, really great concept. It was
Ganda ng vision eh. Oh.
yeah, it was a huge undertaking, but in the end, well, now it was binubuhay ni Senator ng MPBL. Hopefully they do a better job at it.
Dapat kumuha magpa-consult sa si Senator. Kasi galing ka na sa NBA eh.
Yeah, we've had several conversations about that.
Okay. Okay. But Coach, in between working as an executive of the NBA, you didn't veer away from coaching as you joined Coach Tim Cone with the Centennial team, no? When it comes to preparation, ito yata yung team na may pinaka-nakakapagod na journey. While preparing for an international tournament, I could understand you're traveling by land, di ba? Ando kayo sa US, di ba? Tell me something about that experience, Coach.
It was a hell of an experience. It was really, we put together a fantastic preparatory schedule because we thought that pareho nga yung thinking namin ni team. Sabi namin, let's put the team through hell. Yung talagang mabubugbog at mabubugbog, because alam namin pagdating ng tournament, yun ang mangyayari sa amin sa team. So we essentially had to really subject the players to some torturous circumstances. Okay. And yun nga, it was unbelievable. We were playing top 5, top 10 teams in the US NCAA Division 1 on less than 24 hours rest. Lalaro kami ngayong gabi, sakay kami sa bus, babiyahe kami 2-3 oras, tulog sandali, shoot around sa umaga, laro sa gabi, sakay na naman sa bus. So that was very, very deep, but that sobrang nabuo yung team na yon. I think that gelled the team very, very effectively. And unfortunately, we didn't get all the way to the gold medal in the tournament, but we finished. We had a bronze. So in the end, I'm sure Tim feels that there's unfinished business for him, pero at least we came home with something, with a medal. Yeah.
All right.
So, Asian Games.
Right. And then nanalo kayo ng Jones Cup gold medal, right?
Yeah. That we won the gold Jones Cup, and then we had the bronze in the Asian Games.
Right. Okay. And then, Coach, you went back to full-time coaching and returned as a PBA head coach. This time with the Pop-Cola Panthers. No, back then it looks like you're back from scratch. No, how challenging was it for a returning coach in the PBA?
Well, it was very challenging. If you remember, the team na dinatnan ko did not win a game in the previous conference bago ako dumating, kasi in 0, walang panalo, di ba? So it was very difficult. But I thought, we like I said, I learned a lot in my in my from my previous experience, from that painful experience. And then I had the opportunity to go to those to observe those great coaches in the US. And then I was coming off that great observation tour, that practice tour in the US with the Centennial team and competing sa Asian Games. So I had, even when I wasn't coaching in the PBA, I was coaching, and I was filling my coaching knowledge with a lot of data and information.
Mhm.
So although it was almost coming back from scratch in Popcola in 1999, it was with a lot of marami akong baon in that sense. And then we had some talent to work with, di ba? We had Nelson, we had Nolly, we had some talent to work with, pero hindi lang masyadong maganda yung balance. It was just not a very balanced team. So when I got there, yun ang una kong inatupag. And then in our first tournament there, I think the third kami, basta I know we already broke the record of the previous year in the total number of wins in our first conference pa lang, until we eventually got a third place trophy. So yun na yung start ng Pop-Cola na next year naging Coca-Cola na yon. Yeah.
Yung coach, if I'm not mistaken, back na sinasabi mo, nag-o-observe ka, nag-aaral ka. Back then, hindi pa naman uso ang internet noon. So, malamang heavy notes ang ginagawa mo noon.
Oo, tsaka walang mga YouTube, mga ganyang video. Kailangan mo talaga pumunta. I really had to save up and spend my own money and really make calls to people. But fortunately, I got an opportunity to meet the Bruce O'Neill of the United States Basketball Academy. So doon kami, nag-camp kami doon, di ba, yung Centennial team. So that, and then he invited me to be on the International Advisory Board of the USBA, which I am up to now. That opened a lot of doors. Kaya madali na itatawag lang niya, o itong si coach from the Philippines is going there, he's going yun naman siya sa practice. So that was again part of my continuing education. Pero it's not easy, unlike today, di ba? Dali, lahat, ang dami mong makikitang information online. Dati hindi, talagang kayod, sariling sikap. Ang hirap mang-edit kasi demano, long cut pa nun, long way pa nung araw eh.
Alright, okay. True enough, coach, no, it didn't take long for you to rediscover your winning touch, as in 2002 when Coca-Cola, then under San Miguel Corporation, acquired Pop-Cola, no? And you were able to put in the winning pieces you needed, no?
Yeah, laking bagay when we swung the trade to get Johnny and Poche. Diba? From Alaska, because they were kind of towards the end of their career already. Right. And the team wanted to rebuild and get some fresh blood. So they traded those guys while they still had a lot of value, and we were the beneficiaries of it. And then we got Jeff Carriazo. Diba? So we thought that we had now a lot more balance. We still were far from being the most talented team on paper, but I thought we had great balance, and we had a lot of blue collar workers. Diba? Rudy Hatfield, Rafi Reeves, they're not really scorers or talented offensive players.
Then later on, coach, di ba si Bong Hawkins later on?
Bong Hawkins, yeah, was the next year a late pickup for us. So, unti-unti, we got the pieces that we needed. We had Freddy Abuda, diba? So, the role players that we needed to surround Johnny and pa naman mga ibang player ko doon, sila Jojo Manalo, Jumbo Bolado, Ato Morano, hindi mo na naalala yata yung mga yung player na yun, di ba? But, it was a very solid team.
Yung nakita nga natin, nanalo ka ng 2 championships doon. No? But did you wish the team should have kept an intact lineup, as you didn't have much success after the 2003 season?
We went to like 4 straight finals, di ba?
Right.
And then then we had to make some changes, and ang naging change doon, I think we traded Jeff or something. Basta nawala si Jeff eh, di ba? Then we got
Wala siya. Tapos si Raynel Hugnatan din, nawala.
then Arrigo came in place. So those were mainly economic decisions that we had to make. And then binatak na ako kasi for the 2000 for the national team 2005, kaya lang na-suspend yung
Yun nga eh.
Pilipinas, di ba? Oo.
Ano ko nga sa iyan eh, di ba na
Yeah.
yung di ba yung championships mo with the Coca-Cola, it served as your ticket meal para maging coach ka ng national team. But
Yes.
unfortunately, during that time, we were suspended from joining FIBA sanctioned events, di ba?
Correct.
And we were contented on competing sa mga invitational tournaments like Jones Cup and Sultan Cup, no?
Yes.
How frustrating was it as a coach?
Hirap, ang hirap. It was very difficult kasi parang there's nothing more difficult than not having any direction di ba? Hindi mo alam anong gagawin mong preparasyon kasi hindi mo alam eh. So we were kind of making do with what we had, and then nung finally mukhang malabo na, kinuha na ako ng San Miguel to be their coach, di ba?
Right.
So, pero one conference lang ako doon, biglang na-lift na naman yung suspension, so balik na naman kami.
Right.
So, we had we had 2 months lang before then laban na doon sa Tokushima. Kaya, that's why we didn't do too well in Tokushima. Kasi gulo talaga nung situation na yun.
Yun nga eh. You think you would have fared better had it not been for the suspension the previous years that would allow us to get more international exposure?
Definitely, but it's three main factors yun the suspension. Second was I thought we would have benefited from having a naturalized player. Laking bagay nun kung may naturalized player tayo. And then third, yung grupo natin, nasa group of death tayo. Yun yung old format na kinukuha lang yung top 2 Hindi kaya yung top 3 out of 4 di ba?
Right.
Kung top 3 out of 4, then nag-qualify sana tayo to the next round. But that was the last year, I think, of the top 2 lang ang kinukuha. So there were a lot of unfortunate turn of events there. But in the end, syempre, kasalanan ko pa rin. It's still my accountability and responsibility. Ako yung coach, di ba? So, unfortunately, that was why my first stint as the national team head coach was not a very pleasant one.
Coach, you coach San Miguel, no? Alam naman natin, pagdating sa San Miguel, laging stacked yung talent, di ba? And they have the resources, no? But ikaw ba, may panghihinayang ba on your part na hindi ka nakapagpa-champion sa team na yan?
Well, I just handled them for one conference. We went to the finals and tumalo naman sa amin. Hinebra din naman. But that team could have been special. Grabe yung team na yun with the two Danis, Dondon, Olsen, di ba? That was a very strong team. Si Tugade at that time, ang galing pa kagalingan ni Tugade noon. Yeah, and Nick. So that was unfortunately, like I said, getting to the finals in your first conference was not a bad result. Who would have, who knows what could have happened if I had stayed longer with that team.
Okay. And you moved to TNT, and there you had a successful run, no, as a coach. But one thing we've noticed were the changes you had in your coaching philosophy when you brought in the dribble drive offense, no? Why do you think the dribble drive offense was the best suited for a team like Talk and Text?
Well, we started tinkering with the dribble drive in the national team. Kaya lang, hindi pa namin alam dribble drive pala yung tawag doon. But we felt kasi, sinusubukan namin yung regular screening game, hindi nagwe-work in international competition kasi siniswitchan lang tayo ng mga kalaban and liliit natin yung big man natin kasing laki ng off guard nila. So there was no advantage that we were finding or we were getting from the regular screening game, motion. Sinubukan namin mag-triangle. It wasn't working. What really worked for us is when we spread the floor and use our dribble penetration and our outside shooting and our quickness. And we called it open. Hindi namin alam, yun na pala yung start genesis of the dribble drive. The next year, doon na namin nakita, ginamit ni John Calipari sa USNCAA. So doon na namin nakita, yung pala may tawag pala doon. So I sent si Josh to learn as much as he can about it. We tracked down Vance Wahlberg. And then because we felt for the lineup we had sa Talk and Text, in my first year sa Talk and Text, ang sentro namin si Ali Pique. Diba? So we had basically a no center team. So we thought that was the best offense for us to run because we had no size, we had no real big man, and our strength was in our guards and our shooters. So sabi ko, then that's the offense for us to run, and that was like they say, the rest was history.
Right. Okay. With D&D, you built some sort of a dynasty, and in fact, nearly had a Grand Slam in 2011. No. Why did the team fall short on its bid? Masyado bang mabigat yung pressure during that time?
You remember na injury import namin, di ba? Right in the finals, we had to change imports. We had to change 2-3 times, di ba? And then what people forget in game 7, na injure pareho si Jason and Ryan Reyes.
Right. Oh.
So we basically played the second half very crippled, and still we took it to the end game, but hindi kinaya. But we had some very unfortunate import issues. We had to make a change in the finals itself. So San Miguel did a great job. Binugbog yung import namin. Yung magaling na shooter so parang natakot siya, stop playing. We had to make a change in game 3 or game 4. So it was a very difficult situation.
Right. Okay.
But sayang. We came within one game.
And you won back-to-back Philippine Cups, no? The following season, I'm referring to sa 2012, no? You were able to defend your Philippine Cup. And you had a chance to score another back-to-back that season during the 2012 Commissioner's Cup, no? Finals against B-Meg of the old Pure Foods franchise. Was that game 7 one that you cannot forget, Coach? Medyo matagal ba bago ka naka-get over do sa pagkatalo?
Oh yeah, oo. Masakit talaga yon kasi halos panalo na talaga yun, di ba? But that was the crucial non-traveling call na tinawag na dapat tapos na yung game sa amin, but they did call it. Ganun talaga yung basketball, di ba? But I can't complain, if you so many other teams tried their best to get to the finals. We went to 5 straight finals. We came to within a hair of winning the Grand Slam, and so it's very hard for me to complain about that.
Okay, it was also in 2012, no, when you were recalled to coach and lead the Gilas Pilipinas program. But from the moment that you won the Jones Cup tournament, did you already see a bright future for Philippine basketball?
All throughout that stretch, we were very disciplined in not looking too far ahead of ourselves. So we were taking things as they come because we were very deliberate in our planning. We knew the kind of team that we wanted to build. We knew that we were building a team for Korea. Hindi na namin masyadong inisip yung Iran and China. We knew to get to the top 3, we had to get by Korea. So we were very precise there. So even after winning the Jones Cup, we beat Korea in that Jones Cup. It basically validated that we were on the right track. But like I said, we refused to allow ourselves to look too much ahead. Kasi talagang very disciplined yung approach namin. So our discipline was not just in the way we play or the things we were doing, even the way we were thinking, we had to be very disciplined. So we did not allow that to enter our mind. We just made sure to take care of the things that were right in front of us at that point.
Okay. So you mentioned Korea, no? And I'm sure basketball-loving Filipinos are still having goosebumps, no? Seeing the way your Gilas finally end the Korean curse, no? Does this top your list of most memorable games, Coach?
Definitely, it's a game for the ages, di ba? it's going to be hard for this generation of Filipinos to think of of a more important victory, di ba? So I thought it was just something special, and that's why I've had a lot of great memories, great victories, but I think the victory over Korea is going to be the greatest of all of those great victories.
Mhm. Okay. We qualified to the world stage, and there you were able to push our rivals to the limit. And even though we didn't win our games against Argentina and Croatia, you think somehow we were able to display what Puso was all about?
Yeah, not only did we display what Puso was all about, more importantly, we won the respect
Yeah.
of the world, di ba? Remember, after Croatia, sabi nung coach that was the most uncomfortable game he coached or something like that. After Argentina, sinabi nila ni Prigioni tsaka nung coach, di ba? We couldn't figure out what they were doing. Di ba? Sinabi nila that the Philippines were doing things that we didn't really expect. We couldn't figure out what they were doing. So that was for me the sign that we had arrived. It would have been really great if we had won one of those games para umabot tayo sa second round.
Oo nga eh.
But,
Sayang.
ganun talaga eh. I mean, for us to be there, I think the situation it was just too novel or surreal. Ang hirap paniwalaan that we had the ball in our hands with a chance to beat mighty Croatia or a chance to beat mighty number 3 Argentina, di ba?
Overtime na, di ba coach? Yung sa
Croatia overtime. Argentina, bola natin 2 points down lang in the last 10 seconds. But I'm not ashamed to say that if I were a better coach, maybe I could have gotten a better shot for our team in that last possession against Argentina. But it is what it is. I always say, coaches, our job is to get players good shots. Making the shot, that's the player's job. So against Argentina, I did not get a good shot for our team. So that's on me.
Kasi nawala yung who has been playing good basketball all along during that game, si Ranidel.
Oo napulikat dalawang sobrang gandang linaro niya, naubos sa dulo eh. Yeah, pero you're right. But yan, di mo na pwede, di na iisipin ng mga tao yun eh. In the end, di ba? That's still us. Yeah.
Okay. Coach, at this time of pandemic we're experiencing right now, how valuable is that Puso mantra?
It's so valuable that I have translated it into a leadership model that I teach and I share to the executives and the business leaders that I work with today. So the Puso, I translated it into in English, that's heart, di ba? So I built a heart leadership model for what I think is the future fit leader. The future fit leader is the leader who is prepared for whatever the future brings. Kasi yung future proof, hindi naman natin mapo-future proof sarili natin. Hindi naman natin alam what the next pandemic or what the next disruption is going to be, right? But we can be prepared. If we cannot predict the future, but we can prepare for the future. Yun yung future fit as against future proof.
Alright.
So the future fit leader, he understands that he leads with all his heart, and his objective is to capture the hearts of his people. So yung heart model ko for leadership, his foundation is health, because health leads to sharper mental acuity and higher emotional intelligence. So letter E is emotional intelligence. And that is powered by an agile mindset. Agility ang letter A. It is sustained by resilience, and it is scaled by teammanship. So yun yung heart model. Health, emotional intelligence, agility, resilience, teammanship. And if you think about the characteristics of a leader for the future, that's it. That he has to be in great health, because the pandemic shows us now the value, how important health is, di ba? To be in shape, to be physically healthy. And then that allows us to be emotionally intelligent, to be able to manage our emotions and manage the emotions of people around us, to be self-aware. Because when we do that, we lend ourselves to neuro agility or an agile mindset. Kasi yun ang kailangan. It's not so much high IQ. It's being able to think in a very agile manner. You're both analytical and creative. You are both, so it's very agile way of thinking ang kailangan. And then, because this world we're living in is full of change, change happens by the second, sabi ni Elon Musk, you're going to make mistakes. Diba? You're not going to get it right all the time. That's why, importante yung resilience. Kaya you must learn how to build resilience in your organization, and you must learn how to coach resilience to your people. Because in this day and age, that's going to be very, very critical. And then all of these things, emotional intelligence, agility, resilience, it is scaled by the team that you build around you. So if you have a good, strong team, as a leader, your job is to build teams of leaders. So yun. So ganun ka-importante yung puso sa akin na ginawan ko siya ng leadership model that I actually teach now to a lot of very big companies that I have a privilege of working with. Just last week, I gave a talk before Microsoft, so the big insurance companies, Sun Life, Manulife, all of these companies, Kimberly-Clark. So these are the companies that I have the great fortune of working with and sharing my heart model of leadership.
Okay. Coach, you went to war with these guys, Jimmy Alapag, Ranedel De Ocampo, and Jason Castro. No? If you were to pick two other players whom you've coached through the years, and join the three players mentioned earlier, who would that be and why?
Alvin Patrimonio and Rudy Hatfield. Well, because it's like I said, it's tough to argue against the overall all around quality and ability of Alvin and his leadership and his attitude. It's very important. And then Rudy Hatfield is going to be my Mark Pingris, the motor that's so important, right? So essentially, if you're going to give me those three players, those are the two players from the past, kasi pinag-usapan natin from the past na isasama ko dun sa tatlong yun.
Okay. Coach, we saw what happened in the Philippines-Australia game in a match which I assume is not your proudest moment, no? But after that incident, how long before you were able to get through it?
For me, it was the fact, I guess you're referring to the fact that yung sinabi ko kay Pogoy na to put him on his ass. Is that why you're saying it's not my proudest moment?
Not really that, Coach. But
it's what happened.
Well.
Okay. Yeah, it's not our proudest moment in the sense that nobody wanted that to happen. Okay? But again, it's very hard to say that that we are going to if we had the benefit of hindsight, like they say is 2020, maybe we would have done things differently. But at that moment, it's very hard not to do what the way we reacted. Kasi if you know how deep the camaraderie and the bond of this team is, the brotherhood of this team is, you will understand why the players reacted that way. But you're right, it's still a black eye. It's not our proudest moment. And like I said, if we had a way to turn back the clock, we would have wished that they did not take off the decals the night before. We wish that they did not start bullying us in the round robin pa lang. We wished, we wish so many things because, if we could turn back the clock. But finally, we wish that it did not escalate that way, sana. But like I said, in the end, there was so many factors in contributing to that. Natalo yung Australia sa Japan, di ba, coming in. So they were, they really wanted. They were not going to allow another loss there. So they were also on edge. Couple of times I thought in the first half the referees could have simply called technicals against both our players, di ba? Atin, kanila, called early technicals, threw people out, then that would have remedied that tense situation, but it didn't happen. So maraming dapat nangyari na hindi sana nangyari. So it's very difficult, but I've gotten over it because of time, but also because the surprising thing, obviously after that we got some people lauded the fact that we fought for the country. Some people were very upset at us, diba? They bashed us mercilessly on social media. But even after that, and I'm speaking of 2, 3, 4 months after, so many instances. We had the time I was flying in from I forget which country, and then paglabas ko sa eroplano, hinintay ako mismo nung kapitan, nung piloto. And sinabi niya, Coach, on behalf of the pilots and the staff na mga Filipinos dito, we want to say thank you. Pinaglaban mo kami, sinabi niya, kasi binabastos kami talaga dyan.
Okay.
So that's one. And then there was a time I was standing in line, an old man, lolo na talaga, tinapik ako, sinabi, thank you for fighting for our country, sabi niya. So I think more and more it was an ugly incident, but I think the fact that we fought and we stood up for our country, against a superpower, I thought this, if I had my brother, sana hindi na lang nangyari. Pero ipaglalaban mo talaga yung bansa mo eh. Ipaglalaban mo talaga yung kapatid mo eh, di ba? Sabihin na nila mali yun at pero
andito sila sa atin eh, di ba?
Pag binastos ka, maski anong timpi gawin mo. Di ba? Yung pinakamabait na nga natin player si Jason, can you imagine Jason Castro getting upset like that? Yan, napakabait na tao nun para siya.
First time ko nakita na gano'n si Jason.
Can you imagine? So iba talaga yan. You have to be part of the team to understand that eh. Ang ganda yung sinabi nga ni si Coach Yeng ba nagsabi nun? Sabi niya, sa bahay nga namin, gawin mo lang sa aso yun. Makakatikim ka na sa akin eh. Sa aso lang namin eh, dito pa sa ano pa natin, di ba? So
tama.
Di ba? So
right.
Again, going back, the best way is we wish it didn't happen, but it happened, and in the end, it's very hard not to stand up and defend your brother.
Okay. Coach Chot, everybody calls you coach, not only in the field of basketball, but also coaching mentors in different aspects of life. But why is basketball so important to you despite the many hats you've worn through the years?
Because basketball has given me the platform to serve my country. And to give back. I always say this, I'm not a business mogul, magnate who's employing thousands of people. I'm not a politician with millions of constituents. All I am is a basketball coach. And the only way I know to serve my country is by coaching the national team. Alam mo naman dito sa atin, di ba? It's a thankless job to coach the national team. Di ba? Pag panalo yung team, ang gagaling ng players. Pag talo yung team, tanga ng coach. Di ba? Di ba? Ang taas ng expectations and bibigyan ka ng 2 weeks, di ba, to prepare. You don't even have all the players at your disposal, and still you have all that expectation. So it's a thankless job. So for me, why do we do it? It's really our sense of service for our country. So that's why I love basketball, because it gives me that opportunity to serve my country. And furthermore, now that I'm no longer in basketball, it gives me the opportunity to pay it forward. As you know, I'm doing this coach mentorship outreach program. We're choosing 12. Well, now it became 16 kasi di namin matrim down. So I'm choosing 16 young coaches from the provinces, age 21 to 35, who normally would not have an opportunity to attend these coaching clinics. And this is a very high-level coaching clinic. In fact, if you're a starting coach, aspiring coach, I tell them, mag-attend muna kayo ng mga programa ng SBP. They have a lot of free programs, di ba? So ito, kailangan nagko-coach ka na talaga, may team ka na, but in a minor league. So we're not getting coaches from the established leagues in the provinces. We really are looking for the the minor leagues in the provinces. And I'm going to take them on an intensive 2-month coaching mentorship under my tutelage, where I'm going to share everything I know about, not only about the X's and O's of basketball, but about leadership, building teams, motivating people, really everything I know. And that's free of charge. Absolutely nothing to pay. I'm not getting any sponsors. Wala. There's no financial remuneration or objective here. It's just my way of giving back. And my purpose in life is to help developing the next generation of Filipino leaders. So hopefully in my work in executive and business coaching, I'm able to do that. And hopefully if I'm able to touch the life of one or two coaches in the province who normally would not get that opportunity, then meron tayong nagawang mabuti. And you know, we have one fantastic story. We have, alala mo yung Nike Rice ginawa namin dati, di ba? 5 years ago. So we had one guy there, Ian Bruel. He got cut. He didn't make the final lineup sa Nike Rice. He has a picture. Nagpa-picture siya sa akin. He posted it. You know, I got cut, but this was the best experience of my life, so on and so forth. So now, 5 years later, he applies and he gets in this coaching program. So he's now a coach. He's coaching boys in Pampanga. So you know, it's full circle. So that's what I mean. So hopefully, itong ginagawa natin, if we can touch or influence one other Filipino's life, then it would be worth it. That's why basketball means so much to me. It allows me to serve my country. It allows me to serve my countrymen. It allows me to pay forward, to give back. Yeah.
Okay. Coach, you have 8 PBA championships, 5 Coach of the Year awards, and is there anything you can ask for as a coach? And are you still open to returning to the game you love and coach a basketball team?
Palagi yan sinasabi, I've retired from professional basketball coaching, but I will never retire from serving my country. If my country needs my services, you know, why not? I'll always be open. But, you know, that's not something that I'm actually
Coach,
looking for.
Next winter, 70 plus, bago nag-retire.
Professional basketball coach talaga yon. That's all I'm going to say. But for now, I just help in whatever manner I can. I think the SBP is embarking on a fantastic program, long-term program for the future of the sport. And I wish them well. They have my full support in whatever shape or form I can contribute. But for now, I'm quite content with what I'm doing. Been unbelievably busy. This is holiday ngayon na. Panlimang Zoom call ko to eh. Ngayong araw na to, bulisit ka talaga, Ray. Panglima na to.
Asensya ka lang.
Holiday ngayon. My first Zoom meeting was 9:30 and then meron akong 2:15, meron akong 3:15, and then 4:15, and then ito, pang-apat lang pala.
Okay. Coach, baka may gusto kong batiin yung mga, I'm sure marami nanonood sa atin ngayon, no? Baka meron kang gustong i-impart sa kanila.
Sa ating mga kababayan, you know, we're all battling this. Sabi nga nila, di ba, we may be in different boats, but we're all battling the same storm.
Right.
But you know what I've learned in my career where, you know, it's not only the wins and the awards, but it's also a career of getting fired, of abysmal losses and rejection and failure, is that you know, we find the purpose in the pain. So amid all the difficulty that we are facing now, let's find the purpose in it. Let's get stronger and let's get better because of it. To those who are expending all their energy just to survive, you know, my prayers are with you. But to those who have the opportunity, like now, to even think about the future, hopefully you use this to your advantage. Find the purpose in the pain. Choose faith over fear. Choose faith over fear. You know, lilipas din ito. And hopefully we see everybody on the other side.
Okay. Just a quick greetings then. No? Happy birthday to veteran journalist and friend and basketball historian, Mr. Ignacio D., as well as to former Manila Standard colleague Ruby Mohe Agustin. So, again, come hell or high water, we're here, ready to deliver the clutch points here at the lake. This is your moderator, Ray Hobles, signing off for now, but we'll be back for our next episodes of the hottest hoop talks you've learned to discuss then and now. On behalf of our director, Alvin Alejo, and our sponsors, Rain or Shine, Smart, and LGR, thank you and see you in our next episodes. Coach, thank you so much for your
Thank you,
time.
thank you.
I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, Coach.